what's on your mind. You talk it out. You got the time. You thought about it. Let's talk about it. No doubt about it. I got you. ValTrenda all day.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the ValTrenda Show. I know this has become your favorite show. I know it. You don't even have to tell me because I'm that in tuned with you that I know that this is your favorite show. Every Saturday at noon, we've been here, okay? We've been here talking about melanated mental health. So I have to thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us when we switch times. Thank you for just being here. Thank you for sharing, commenting, liking, and all of that. If this is your first time, you came in at the perfect time today, because today's show, we're going to do some very interesting things. So, what are we talking about today? Today is a great show because we are going to take a look back. As you all know, the ValTrenda Show was designed to bring awareness to the Black and Brown community, but not just awareness, education as well. And this entire season, that's what we've done. We've had a full, extensive first season. It's been so much fun. We've spoke with experts, DJs, judges, school board members, and let's not forget our group of courageous women. All right. So let me remind you what the purpose of this show was. The purpose of this show is what we say. It's our headquarters for melanated mental health. I know you've heard me say that over and over again, but are you really listening to what I'm saying? It's our headquarters. This is the headquarters for melanated mental health. This place is safe. We've been able to talk about a lot of different things and it become safe. It's our safe space. Even when you put your comments on, it's been safe, right? And throughout the season, we've shown you all that we've had a deep sense of care for mental health, but not just mental health, melanated mental health. Our Black and Brown community has been suffering for a very long time with the lack of information on mental health. But my job has been to enlighten us all, bring new awareness, bring new things. And how have we done that? We've spoken with all different kinds of people, right? So the difference with this show is that we have honed in and identified this genre of people. We've created this show for no one else but you, our Black and Brown community. Now, I don't know who else is doing what, but I know here on the ValTrenda Show, that's what we focus on. And guess what? We've been having fun while doing it. We've had fun while doing it. We've shed some tears, right? We've talked about some very dark subjects. We talked about Bruno, little big head behind. We've talked about him and everything that's wrapped up. We've talked about so many different things, and I am honored to be able to share those things with you. Lastly, we've also been able to share some of my own personal journeys. Now, I'm not going to say I'm a private person, but I will say that I have my reservations about what about my personal life I put out there. But thanks to my producer who said, hey, let's do this. And then I just say, sure, you're my boss. So I have had the pleasure of sharing with you all into my personal life, my own personal journeys. We've talked to professional Val, and we've talked to Val who's tired of going to the gym, Val. I've shared my happy moments with you. I've even talked about what I do during the holidays. So this show has been so enlightening for several different reasons. So for the next 2 episodes of this season, we look back and we travel back through the entire journey Now, let me tell you, I put in some work. If I may say so myself, I am damn proud of me because I put in this work. I always wanted this, but never in a million years did I think it was actually possible that I have my own show. So we're going to go back before I start crying. I put in the work. It's been worth it. And we're going to travel back. So go get your ValTrenda Show mimosa. I gave you the recipe last week, but I'm going to give it to you again. All right. Remember, it's OJ, cognac, preferably Remy Martin, and a splash of champagne. So go get that and come right back here as we review the first season of the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health.
All right, Mocha Marbles, we're moving to Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. So please, please, please be sure to check us out. Bring family and friends. Get you a little, what in the morning, Corey?
We're going to add a little flavor to your morning blend, but just now.
Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show. As we review the first full season of this show, we're going to go back and go to our very, very first episode of the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. Now, our first episode, we sat down and we talked to Dr. Anthea Henderson, and she spoke with us about the competencies, about cultural differences when going to therapy. As a matter of fact, watch this clip.
And who you are and meeting you in your place, in your position.
Right. So what's so important about the how?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's important about that.
The how, oh wow. The how is really when we humble ourselves so that we gain a sense of, when we're in mental health, we already talk a lot about listening and how important listening is. Well, it's absolutely essential in listening, in hearing, in allowing that individual to be the expert of themselves and actually be in a position to learn before we serve. So learning who you are, what you value, how you prefer to be addressed and supported, understanding your culture, anything about you that's inherent to your growth and your experience, we must focus on bringing that in. And so I know when we're in mental health, we're learning a lot about the different modalities and the different perspectives that are brought by various experts.
Right.
What's not a good idea is to just take that and apply it to someone and assume that that will serve the purpose for them, because those modalities that have been designed and creative, they've been designed from one set of lens, from one perspective, and they're not going to work for everyone. And if we're going to serve, if we don't want to lose our clients, if we don't want to, again, do further harm, we've got to consider that. We've got to be supportive of them in the place that they are. And a quick point that I'd like to make here is I think about when my children were young, and I think particularly about my daughter, who was a chronic asthmatic, and I would take her to the pediatrician, and my husband knew she had asthma. She was very young, but the doctor insisted there was no way she could have asthma. She was too young. And so rather than use the information that we brought forth, the knowledge that we had and the experience that we had, and support us through that, and at least consider that as a possibility, he shut us down. And fortunately for us, because we were really advocates for our child and our child's health, it would have been easy to go back home and sit there with her and potentially loser.
Correct.
But we persevered. We found other options so that we could receive the care. And she was very much chronically asthmatic, but we had to get with the right person
Right.
who was culturally competent and didn't make assumptions about us because of who we were and how we looked.
Good, good. So being that there are a lot of people out there who are trying to receive mental health help, right?
Mhm.
So as a client,
Mhm.
people don't know who they should be choosing as the professional. So
Mhm.
tell me, what are the pros and the cons of receiving help, mental health help from other cultures? So if I'm a Black woman, what's
Mhm.
the pros and cons of receiving mental health help from a white professional?
Mhm. So I'll start with what the con could be.
Okay.
And I say this because in all fairness to any ethnic group, they can make the effort to be culturally competent and be as effective as, for example, me as a Black woman working
Right.
with you.
Right.
But they've got to do the work. So the con would be someone who basically is very limited in their perspective. They have no regard for that individual's well-being. They make assumptions about that. They're very ethnocentric in their thought processes. So their thoughts are that this is what I'm going to do. I'm an Adlerian, and Adlerian works for everyone across the board,
Right.
and that's what you're going to get.
Right.
So there's damage there, and I have to say that could even happen with someone that's Black. Most likely, it would happen from someone that's not of the same ethnic background. The pro, though, is that if that individual is culturally competent, is conscious of your needs as a client,
Right.
and really working hard to serve you, they could avoid potential bias that may come from me as someone that's like you. And not saying all of us do it, but I would say that they would be less likely to make assumptions and to determine that we're like, but more truly focus on listening. But they've got to be in that place of being culturally aware, culturally competent to be able to do so.
I agree.
So there's some, and I think we definitely can appreciate that they can, if they are willing to do the work, they can be very effective. And sometimes, while they may still be culturally competent, maybe there's a personality concern, or maybe there's someone who just really needs someone that's grounded in their culture, and that happens too. And so it may not work for them, even if that individual is well-versed in cultural competency, they still may not be able to serve that individual.
Right. And welcome back to the ValTrenda Show as we review the first season of the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. This next clip we're going to go into is one of my dear friends, Miss Faith Givens. Now, Faith, in our discussion, was so good and so deep that we broke it into 2 episodes. Faith specializes in grief. And when we were talking to her on this particular clip, she goes into the different stages of grief that we experience. And then she points out, I'm just going to let you watch it. So it's safe to say that sometimes when you start automatically dealing with a lot of health issues, it could be related to grief as well. Is that right?
Very much so.
Cool. Tell me, there are 5 stages according to the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross model. There's 5 stages of grief, right? Some people say 7, but according to her model, there's about 5. Can you kind of walk us through a few of them, or what they look like?
So you're gonna have, I like to always start with anger.
Right.
And that's not the first one. It can happen in any order, but I like to start with anger because a lot of times If the individual is grieving alone, that's different. But if everybody, like it's a family or community that has suffered a loss, oftentimes you're gonna deal with that anger. And it makes people feel like they have literally lost control. They start to feel like because here's the thing, you can't control it, right? And so most of the time for people that are in leadership, they are used to running stuff and controlling stuff. That's the one thing that you cannot try to force or cookie
You're
cut.
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Because you don't know. So anger is one of the greatest ways of people trying to pipe it down. Depression, people will get depressed. A lot of times the difference between grief and depression, depression is more or less you more concentrating on you, but in grief, when you're grieving and you're depressed, it's a little bit different than regular depression. Right.
I agree.
We know that you have denial. You don't think that it's going, like this didn't happen, or how can I say it? You keep yourself busy to stay away from the reality of what happened.
Absolutely.
Sometimes in the funeral planning, you'll find people trying to avoid certain stuff. And then after the burial or after, you've done away with the remains, people have a hard time like getting rid of the clothes or moving on to the next step, cleaning things out. And again, this is not just in the instance of someone losing a loved one. You can go through all of these stages and other aspects of grief as well. Another one is bargaining. This is when you're trying to really, really, really like make it make sense. And this is when you try to tell the story a lot, because in your head, like this didn't happen. Like this cannot be that, my mom died, my dad died. Like, am I dreaming? Somebody wake me up. So you tell the story a lot. You're trying to make sense of it. And then some people in their bargaining, it's not done verbally, it's done within themselves, which I think is a little bit worse because you're kind of like internalizing what you probably should be speaking out. Right. But it just depends on the personality type. And then finally, there's acceptance. That's what we all want to get to. We want to get to a place of acceptance because we want to get to a place where we begin to realize it's time for us to accept what took place, but then make plans for the future. This could be, starting a different career. This could be writing a book. This could be, acceptance. Trying to, especially if somebody's lost their spouse, maybe they want to make a decision to sell the family home because it's just too many memories. Yeah. So those are just some of the ways that you deal with those 5 stages, but you are right. I've even heard up until 12 different stages.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, it's like 7 and 12. So, but those are the main stages that people deal with. And apart from acceptance, they can come in any order.
Right. Now, when it comes down to accepting, right, a lot of people hesitate to get to that point. And you give me your input. A lot of people hesitate to get to acceptance because it means to them that they never really loved the person, that they never really cared about the person, or they're afraid to forget the memory of the person. Do you find that sometimes within, a lot of your clients that they hesitate to get to accepting it because that means that, they don't, the things that I mentioned earlier. Do you find that with some of your clients or even within yourself?
Right. So sometimes the finality of it, like you said, you feel like you're doing away with it, on social media, fortunately and unfortunately, it gives us a view into people's lives. Yeah. And so I watch how people, because how you post says a lot about you. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, people will post, and I know someone personally, I've worked with them on an occasion, and they lost a child. Mm-hmm. And so it's only been about 1.5 years now, well, a little bit over a year. And I get it. And so like every day, 2 to 3 times a day, they're posting that kid's picture. Mm. Now, I'm a little bit concerned because I get the posting. It's just how often they're doing it, right? So, and then some of the other posts that they post unrelated to their child, I'm seeing some stuff stir over in mental health. Now they think that they're fine, but they've not reached out to me again. So I'm just sitting back praying, but I'm seeing some stuff. And so I think that for them, like you mentioned, keeping that person alive, like it never happened. But the reality is they're no longer in the earth. So at some point, you've got to come to grips with the fact that they're no longer here. You know what I mean? And it's different time frames for people, but this individual in particular, I'm really concerned about, you know, where they are from a mental, emotional state. Because now I'm starting to see it infiltrate other areas.
Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. During this first season, it was important for me to show all of you at home, our Black and Brown community, that not all the time when a group of Black and Brown women get together, it's violence or it's mean or it's nasty or anything. Sometimes we come together to heal. And that's what this group of women did during this first season in the recovery room. And the recovery room is my counseling area. So I was able to lead these group of women into this discussion. And the discussions by far blew me away with some of the realness that they had to say. That's why they were so courageous, because they come on national TV and talk about their deepest, darkest secrets and fears. And I was just blown away, and I was honored. They were like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, no, thank you. Because we're showing the world that a group of Black women can get together and heal. And in this particular clip that I'm going to show you, we talk about forgiveness. Now, as you know, sometimes that can be difficult. If somebody broke your heart, if somebody hurt your feelings, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to talk about forgiving. But listen to each and every one of them and how they discuss what that process was like for them in this clip. Watch this.
Why can you forgive everybody else and they're the ones that actually do you wrong versus you forgiving yourself? What's so hard about you forgiving some of the mistakes that you've made?
Not sure. Working on that.
I think I can honestly say, I think it's because with myself, I feel like I'm supposed to know better. You know, I'm supposed to know. Other people, it's okay if they don't know, but it's not okay if I don't know. And that's something that I've had to work through myself, to know that, well, you only know as much as you know at this particular place you are in life. And if you don't know, that's okay. You know, it doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up or stay in a place of, you know, stagnation because you didn't know something. You know, you find the lesson in it, find the positive in it, and you use that to propel yourself forward. You know, but it took some time to get to that place.
Yeah.
And even with our kids, like I can say honestly, with my kids, like I do childcare, and it's like if another child would do something, I'm like, oh wow, I don't know what they're being taught. But if my child do something, I'm harder on them because I'm like, oh well, you should know. But in the same aspect, they still all just children.
Right.
So I just think that this is how we process stuff sometimes.
Yeah. So what is it in you that makes it harder? Makes you be harder on yourself when you say, well, this is something that I should have known. Okay, but what if you didn't know it? Are you still hard on yourself then?
No, I think I sometimes, as she was speaking, I have a hard time forgiving myself for not letting go of something that I knew I should have let go of, but I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to find that I know it could be better, but I know I should let it go. So I think I just have a hard time forgiving myself for wasting time with anything
whether it be a job, a relationship, a friendship, anything of that nature, that I just want to see the greatness in it.
Yeah.
But I know it was a season.
So when things are, and this is for everybody, because let me see by the show of hands, who all have a hard time forgiving themselves for anything. Okay, so when you are in the place of, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, and you can't seem to get over it. Why? I want to know why it's easier for you to forgive other people. What if they didn't know better either? You didn't know better, they didn't know better. So why do they get more mercy from you than you get more mercy from you?
Now that you said that, I can probably do it better.
Because you're essentially giving them something that you should be giving yourself.
Right.
And so you give them something first, and they're not you. You are you. You are you. Nobody gonna love you more than you love you. And at least you shouldn't expect other people to love you more than you love you. Right? So if people have a hard time forgiving you and you trying to figure out why, how could you even be upset with them when you have a hard time forgiving yourself? Makes sense. And then we also have to remember that things that happened 5 minutes ago, we can't do anything to change it. We can't do anything to change it. The only thing we could do is change our behavior now to correct the future, right? To prevent what happened in the past from happening in the future. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
But you know what, Val? I think that's one of the things, just like you said, things that took place in the past. Sometimes when it becomes a cycle, when it becomes repetitive, and it's like, what happened? Why does this keep happening? Or why is it that, we're allowing this, this people, even if it's a different individual, whether it's family, friends, allowing this situation to keep passing, even though sometimes it's out of our control. But it's, why is this a repetitive cycle? Why does this keep happening? Right. What could I have done to change it? Knowing how to forgive yourself, that's the main thing.
Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. Now, you always know, if you're just now watching or you've been a fan of the ValTrenda Show, which I know you are, we have a segment called self-care. And if you haven't, take the time to review what these moments have been, because they are so educational yet enlightening, because self-care is necessary. And I don't think that we have really paid attention to how necessary self-care really is, because we as a society have been so focused on the trend of self-care. You see the reels, you see the videos, the TikToks and all of that about, oh, I'm taking care of my self-care. But are you really? Because self-care is not just going to get a mani-pedi. It's not even just getting a massage or having a day to yourself. It goes deeper. And we go into, throughout this entire season, we've gone into what self-care has really meant to all of us. And it's really truly about placing value in ourselves. In our Black and Brown communities, I don't really think that we've ever been taught that. I really don't think that we've ever been taught how to take value in ourselves when we spent years and years and years of the oppressor telling us that we were invaluable. Then think about that. If for years the oppressor has been telling us, you ain't worth nothing, who are you? What you coming to do? How in the heck are we supposed to take value in ourselves when we've been hearing that over and over and over and over again? Our ancestors driving by lynch ceremonies, our ancestors being tossed left and right, and we're taught to take care of ourselves? It's unheard of. But here on the ValTrenda Show, we spent time talking about how valuable each and every one of us is to ourselves, to our families, and to our communities. So yes, we spent time talking about self-care, because if nobody cares for us, we ought to care for us. But the truth is, people will care for us because we care for us. And that's what self-care is all about. Taking value in who you are. It doesn't matter what color, what sexual preference you have, what size you are. That doesn't matter. You are created as you. And you've got to take care of that in which you were created. And that's why self-care has been so important. So as we go back and view these moments through the ValTrenda Show, take a moment and reflect on these moments. Take a moment and go get your 7 Gems to Glowing Up book written by moi, and pour into yourself so that you can pour into others. Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. And I hope that you have had just as much fun as I did. We've been looking back into our inaugural season of the ValTrenda Show. And we've just been going back, looking at all of our different interviews and everything that we've been going on here in the show. I hope that you enjoyed this season. Next week, we're going to do the same thing and include more of what we've been going through. I hope that you have a great weekend. Enjoy one another. Be kind to one another, please. We got enough stress out there. Give yourself grace, and as always, show love.